a doozy of a week 11, ladies and gentlemen. It was honestly, I couldn't ask for any better weekend, right? I mean, I went 4-0 on my picks. For the first time this season, I go 4-0 in my Pigskin Frenzy games. Round of applause, pat on the back for me. Prodigy of CFB right here. And hopefully, with week 12 coming up on Thursday, we will get it right this week. Hopefully. We got to go back to back. Let's just shoot for it. I haven't done that in a minute either. Just gone back to back in my picks. So we'll do that. We're going to recap week 11, doozy of games, and we're going to talk about the Frenzy playoff rankings. And there's some adjustments in those rankings. So just be careful on that, and just don't hurt me or don't have any backlash towards me. And we're also joined by our very special guest correspondent now. First time on the show. We know no pressure for Trent Ritchie over here, but we're going to get him on in here a little bit. We're going to talk some college football with him, and he'll recap some games, and we'll ask some analytical questions for him as well. Guys, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch and listen to some college football coverage presented by us. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy. You're going to get a lot of wild takes. You're going to get a lot of exclusive content from Pigskin Frenzy as well. And the website's www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com for all things Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, we're at 6,000 listeners. We're about to be at 6,100 listeners. We couldn't do this show without you guys. And most importantly, we give all praise to our Lord and Savior Jesus, because without him, we wouldn't be doing this show. It's very important to praise him. He delivered us Pigskin Frenzy. He put us in college football media, so we give all praise to him. And if you want to come to know him, X and Instagram's at Pigskin_Frenzy. That's my contact down there, as well as www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. It's the best decision you can ever make in your life. Guys, let's talk some college football. And without any further ado, we have our very special guest for the first time appearing on Pigskin Frenzy. He most likely is going to be our analytical guy for this show. Most likely will appear once a month on the show as well. Guys, round of applause for Trent Ritchie. Guys, golf clap, infamous golf clap on the show. Trent, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great, Joel. How are you?
Dude, awesome. I am pumped. I'm ready to talk some college football. I know you're ready. I know that there were a lot of good games in week 11, and we're going to, talk about the Pigskin Frenzy matchups here in a little bit. But tell us a bit about yourself, man. What led you to be and just to talk about trying to get into college football media?
So, growing up being a massive college football fan, especially of a program in the U of A that did not have much playoff success, I really diversified the teams that I watched. I really came at it from an analytical perspective as opposed to a fandom perspective. And the reason for that being, U of A does not, Arizona being, does not have a lot of success, in postseason and in the playoffs. So oftentimes I was really watching to just see if they would be represented in the rankings, to see if they could compete with top level talent, to watch a lot of their bowl performances. And I think that really led me to watch a lot more of, SEC ball, Big Ten. I mean, at the time when I was younger, it was split up a little differently. We had the Big East, we had the Pac-10, a little different back then, but following it for as long as I've gotten to see the conference realignment. I've gotten to see, the introduction of the NIL, which has really revitalized the sport in a lot of different and fun new ways that I've really, has really captivated me as a member of the audience. And so I think this being my sport of true passion as opposed to that of professional or even basketball, I really have gotten to see a lot of these changes and a lot of this evolution in the recent years. And it's really brought in a lot more eyes to the screen. And so I think being a part of that has really given me the chance to go through and comb through a lot of these analytics about these teams and comb through a lot of the new statistical analysis of it and the new schemes that come along with that.
Absolutely, man. And I agree. Massive college football fan. And I think it's what a lot of people try to get into this. Even though they haven't played college football, there's a lot of people who are fans of the sport and have studied the sport so much. They just want to get into it, man. They just really want to just pursue a career in this. So I applaud you, man. I'm with you. I'm the same way. I was a massive fan growing up as well. And now that we're in kind of the media realm of it now, like this is the media, right? With podcasting and shows starting up on YouTube and Spotify, Apple, it really it really is a huge blessing to be doing this now that we have the platform to do this and that God gave us the platform to do this. So let's talk some college football. I know you're ready for that. And we're going to kick it off with week 11 recaps with Notre Dame and Navy. Navy at Notre Dame. I said that Notre Dame was going to win the ball game. I thought Navy was going to cover. I said that last week. So I was right about that game. Was wrong about Navy covering. Final score of this game was Notre Dame 49, Navy 10. Notre Dame. Whew. Let me go on and tell you something about Notre Dame, and I will just. A lot of people are going to say, yeah, they don't deserve to be number 10 based off resume. I don't know, man. The way they played, and I know it's Navy. Navy is a difference in competition right there. They got a huge game coming up Thursday. Spoiler alert for Pigskin Frenzy purposes. They have a huge game coming up on Saturday versus Pitt. But Notre Dame on the field showed a lot of people in the CFP, and a lot of people are going to hate on me for this, showed a lot of people in the CFP and the doubters that they looked really, really good. They looked good on the field and on both sides of the ball. So what are some of your analysis on this game and some of your recap points in this game?
So, first off, got to give respect to our troops because we're about to talk about what was a little bit, to say the least, a lopsided game. So you look at it from the perspective of Notre Dame, obviously, and the resounding win that they had against our troops. So looking at it, the obvious thing being Jeremiah Love. Okay, so Jeremiah Love averaging 7.2 yards a carry. He really, really showed out in this one. Grabbed himself 2 touchdowns. He was really the engine behind the offense. But I think that almost is more something to pay attention to, because when you look at Notre Dame of last year, the engine behind that offense was really Riley Leonard. You could tell he was commanding the offense. You could tell he knew the game plan like the back of his hand. He knew where he was going and the direction in which he wanted to lead that offense. I do not see that from CJ Carr. I think that CJ Carr is severely lacking in a lot of his reads. I think he really does not have the same pocket poise as that of a Riley Leonard, and I think that you can tell the offense is much more one-dimensional. Even though, they were playing the troops, and obviously you can tell how that game went, their quarterback only throwing 3 passes, which is not totally atypical for Navy and is not atypical for cadet programs in general. However, when you look at something like that, you really are looking to see an offense that is much more widely variated on multiple different levels. And while I think you saw that from CJ Carr this game, I think that's been lacking in a lot of other games in their past, the key one being Miami. And I think that seeing that level of development from CJ Carr during this game was good, but I'm still cautious because I think that looking at that element of it, you wonder if this will hold up in games that are much closer at hand, such as even USC. I think we saw some of that from him, but I think that consistency that Riley Leonard brought to the table isn't present in CJ Carr. However, where that is lacking, I believe the defense heavily makes up for that. I think that the defense of Notre Dame this year is far better than what we saw out of even the national championship team that played against Ohio State last year. And I think that is a good sign for them, especially considering that they had those 2 losses early to Miami and A&M. And I think those 2 losses were ones that the committee has obviously weighed very heavily. And I think thankfully for them, it's worked out in their favor, as A&M, who we'll obviously talk about later, has really risen to the level that people expected from A&M in previous years.
Absolutely. Hey, good analysis right here, guys. Look, see, this is we talked about test run on this show, right? We may have to bring this guy back on even more. Great analysis on this game. That was awesome, especially with Notre Dame. Let's talk about, before we get into Navy, I know you're probably going to talk about Navy just a tiny bit. Let's talk about Notre Dame just for a little bit. And in my perspective, we obviously on this show, we have the positive circle moments, the negative circle moments. Let's talk about the positives. I really did like CJ Carr in this game, at least on the paper. I mean, 3 touchdowns, 218 yards, 13 for 16. Now, there are stuff to work on, but he's still developing. True freshman quarterback, still developing, still going game by game by game. So, in my opinion, I'm going to, back off from CJ Carr, he's doing this bad. I mean, look, I think it's just a learning curve for him. Just in my honest thoughts. I think it's a learning curve in some areas. Now, There are things he can work on, obviously, but like I said, learning curve. 3 touchdowns, 218 yards, 13 for 16 for CJ Carr. Jeremiah Love, 94 yards, 13 carries, and 2 touchdowns. He is just an absolute animal, man. He really is. I mean, Jeremiah Love, to me, one of the best backs in the sport. He's going to be a great NFL back, I believe. Jeremiah Love will be, but that's probably just me, my personal opinion there. He is ready for Sundays, man. I really do believe that. Those are the positive circle moments from them. Let's go to the overall stats. I mean, 7 for 10 on third down. Look, I'm getting the pin out. I'm circling it again. Positive circle moment for Notre Dame. 7 for 10 on third down, 8.8 yards per play. They had 249 rushing yards, 253 passing yards, and overall, here's the stat right here, ladies and gentlemen. 502 total yards of offense. That is ridiculous. I know it's Navy. Navy's defense is not the best, but still, it's still pretty difficult to put up 502 yards of offense in a game. But Notre Dame did it. They did really well. Now, here's another key stat that I like, and that's a positive circle moment. 0 sacks allowed in this ball game. They protected CJ Carr really well. They outmanned Navy in the trenches, and they had 30. I mean, the time of possession, I really wouldn't count that because, I mean, it was just a minute off. But, I mean, they really, in the line of scrimmage, at least to me, played really well. They were very tough up front on both sides of the ball. So Notre Dame, man, I mean, they have a showdown Saturday against Pitt. It's gonna be a battle on the road. They have Pitt. If they win against Pitt, and here are my thoughts on Notre Dame. If they win against Pitt, I think they're in. And and a lot of people aren't gonna like that. A lot of people are gonna be like, dude, you better be quiet. You're talking about branding again. I get it. I get the fussing. I get all that. The Miami win, not looking as good. The that Miami loss, rather, not looking as good. The A&M loss looks really good because A&M, I mean, we're going to talk about A&M in here in a little bit, is a wagon. But if you're talking about just Notre Dame in general, their schedule, who was their best win, Pitt could be a good win there if they go on the road and get it done. Going to be a tough game. If they beat Pitt, I believe they're in because I don't think they're going to lose out. That's just my honest thoughts. If you have any thoughts on that, you're welcome to share. Trent, I just believe that if Notre Dame wins Saturday, they're in.
And I got one better for you. They're already in right now. And I think the reason for that is, as you mentioned, branding. But I think that that's something that the audience really has to take into account is you don't make the rules and standards. The committee does. And the committee values branding. That's why Notre Dame has a spot every year. That's why it isn't a non-conference spot to include Group of 5 and Notre Dame. It is a Notre Dame spot. If Notre Dame makes the at-large, they are in. And the reason for that is very clear. Notre Dame has a clear history of great production on both the offensive and defensive side, along with the bevy of pro players that they have brought to the public. I think this is a very, very clear choice for the committee, and it's one I don't blame them on because at the end of the day, they already have what I view as a key win against USC, who was a ranked program from the Big Ten. They really early on were looking to be a much more vital piece of that possible playoff contention. Unfortunately, as Lincoln Riley teams tend to do, they fell a little bit off. But you know what? I think going forward, Pitt, like you said, is a team with one loss in the ACC. They're still really in the race for that possible one spot for the ACC. And I think with that being in the picture, I think Notre Dame really did make a schedule that, while maybe a little bit more front-loaded, is even enough to where, even with 2 losses, the committee has to concede them a spot.
Right. I do believe if they do lose a game, if they lose Saturday, I think they're done. I believe that. I think if they're a 3-loss Notre Dame team, I don't think you can put a 3-loss Notre Dame team in. I really don't. Now, that's just my honest thoughts. Now, if the committee's crazy, they can be a little insane. If Notre Dame was in a conference, different story. And they won a conference title, different story. But 3-loss Notre Dame independent, it's kind of hard to put them in. It really is. I think if they lose Saturday, they're done. I mean, if they lose out, I mean, who knows? Syracuse can upset them. Stanford could upset them. It's unlikely, in my opinion. But it could happen. We've seen it happen before. We've seen crazy things happen in this sport. But if they lose Saturday to Pitt, I think their most likely loss is Saturday. If they lose Saturday in Pitt, at Pitt, it's over. But we'll see what happens. Well, I can't pick that game, obviously, not yet. I'm not going to do any of that yet, but that's the remaining schedule. Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford. They have their final home game against Cuse. They're then out of the 2 of the 3 games that they have left, it's on the road. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting game. But let's talk about Navy really quick before we move on to the other 3 games. Navy's most likely is out of the playoff. Well, a lot of things out. Okay, let me just backtrack. A lot of crazier things have happened. There's got to be a lot of maneuvering and a lot of losses ahead of them for them to get into the picture. But right now, it's not looking good for Navy. But who knows? They got to pray for people's downfalls ahead of them. But let's talk about Navy. I think Braxton Woodson played really well in place of Blake Horvath. I think he's a good quarterback for the future for this team. I really do. I think that Horvath is a good runner, yes. I honestly think Woodson's a little bit of a better thrower. That's probably an unpopular opinion, but Brian Newberry likes to throw it a little bit, and I think in those a little bit throwing scenarios, Woodson is a better thrower, in my honest thoughts. I believe that. I think Horvath is good, don't get me wrong, but I think Woodson is really good. 228 total yards, 4.1 yards per play. They had a good running with 206 yards. Obviously, the passing was not all there. Obviously, it's Navy, right? They run the triple option. They are a variant of the triple option now. I think the positive circle moments come in with Navy. Braxton Woodson played well. They made some explosive plays early, which is really good, and they competed in the first half. To me, those are positive circle moments. 2 sacks allowed, negative circle moment. Obviously, 6 penalties for 57 yards, negative circle moment. Those are some negatives for me. I will give you a negative circle moment or positive circle moment, rather, for Navy. No turnovers. They didn't turn the ball over. And with Horvath in, they usually turn the ball over. And that's not me calling anybody out. I'm not calling Horvath out. I just believe I'm really high on Braxton Woodson for this team in the future. I really am. I really like Navy in the future with him, and I think Brian Newberry is doing really good things down at Navy. 3 for 11 on third down, not the best, but I think they are a team that will most likely, and just in my thoughts, could win out the rest of their could win out the rest of their schedule. I think I'll give Memphis a tough run for their money. Army, Navy, obviously going to be, obviously is always the game. Saturday's going to be tough for Navy. That's going to be a tough one. Before we get into that one really quick, what's your thoughts on Navy in this game? And then we'll move on, but I just want to hear your thoughts on Navy.
So the way I would put it, and it was a text from my friend that I saw halfway through that game, he said, Notre Dame is slow dancing with Navy. And obviously hilarious. I loved the analysis on that. I thought it was funny. I had to say it. And I think it's true. I think they were definitely, Notre Dame was missing something early on in that game. And while I think that, 7 for 10 on third down, that is a great stat for them to have under their belt. And for a true freshman like CJ Carr to have under his, I think that shows a development from Miami. That shows a development from A&M. That shows a power behind the offense that is possible without Jeremiah Love. So when he does struggle in those early games, such as, Miami, such as A&M, where he's more of a feature, not the force behind the offense, you still have a fighting chance. Now, I believe that this game had some nuance to it because I think you are missing Blake Horvath, and I think that is something that really, at the end of the day, would have allowed for a Navy to take a real driving leap in that game and to really have a puncher's chance of Notre Dame. I think, unfortunately, from my perspective, seeing this game play out in years past, even last year, you knew where this was going. You saw that, Navy's offense, obviously being a cadet program, very one-dimensional. They do a lot of, different plays, different tricks on the ground, and I think they're interesting, but it's very almost too schematic in a way. They need that dimension in the air in order to beat serious teams like Notre Dame. Now, I think, like you said, for the future with guys like Woodson, I think having that group of 5 spot right now and that guarantee that teams from, the American Conference could slide their way into that, I think Navy is going to be a team to watch out for in the coming years. However, I think that element of passing through the air is still missing with them, and I think it is going to hamper them when it comes to really big group of five programs from that American Conference, like your Memphises, like your USFs. I think that element is still missing.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. I think Navy's a team to watch out for in the future. It just may not be a this year kind of year for them right now. But in the future, it's looking like Navy could be a team to watch out for in a CFP spot for the group of five. Let's talk really quick. There's the rest of their schedule before we move on. They have South Florida at home. That's going to be an interesting game. USF, the USF cannot afford, and the group of five is so interesting because USF cannot afford to, to drop another egg, right? They can't afford to lay another egg. USF can't. Memphis looks kind of vulnerable right now. And then you obviously have the Army-Navy game. Those are the three games that they got left on their schedule. Going to be a very interesting thing to see what happens with Navy and how they finish their season out. Final score of this game was 49-10. We'll see what's going to go on with Notre Dame. They got a showdown with Pitt. Navy got to go back to the drawing board. They have to play South Florida on Saturday, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central kick. Texas A&M and Missouri played Saturday, and that was a very fun game, right? It was fun. I said that A&M was going to win the ball game, okay, right? I got everything right. Besides the outcome, I said it was like 27-24. Joel, shame on you. Final score of this game, right, was Texas A&M 38, Missouri 17. Texas A&M 38, Mizzou 17. Oh boy. They went into Columbia, and it was a mollywop, as we say on this show, because it wasn't close. I think the problem and the reason why it was not close was because, one, A&M is just so dynamic. Number two, they made Missouri one-dimensional. And I think that was going to be a huge issue, a big problem. That's not a knock at Matt Zollers. It's just the way of the land when it comes to, okay, true freshman quarterback, yes, he's a third-string quarterback as well. He was a third string on the depth chart. There's one there, right? And then, not only that, if he's not familiar with the system, it's his first full game starting. I mean, and you're going to have to run the ball a lot more, which Missouri, they ran the ball well. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. It's just, you can't go one-dimensional with a team that's just so dynamic like Texas A&M this year. Let's talk about positive circle moments for Texas A&M, and then we'll get your thoughts on the game. Man, positive to me, and a lot of people are going to be like, enough for this already. Man, Marcel Reed, dude, 20 for 29, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dynamic there. He also had 29 yards on the ground, 5 carries, but that running game was electric as well. Ruben Owens had probably his best game of his career, almost. I mean, 102 yards, 13 carries, 2 yards, 7.8 yards per rush. 7.8 yards per rush. That is 2nd and 3, and then another first down. I mean, literally, they just couldn't stop the run game. And then not only that, you have E.J. Smith on the ground, 24 yards, 1 touchdown as well. Casey Concepcion, 84 yards, 4 receptions, 1 touchdown. Bethel Roman, 26 yards, 2 receptions, and a touchdown. Guys, I said a key to the game was to contain those wide receivers. They did some, but not all the way. And I think that was a big part of the reason why they won that ball game as well. That offense is dynamic, yes. The defense did show a little bit. A lot of people are going to say, okay, they still got 200-plus yards on the ground put on them. Yeah, but they did show a lot of, passing defense was great. I mean, 77 passing yards only, right? That's still pretty good. The defense really showed up. 7 for 14 on third down. I mean, 6.8 yards per play. They had a total of 464 total yards of offense on this game. A&M looks good. They're a wagon, and they keep on moving. The only negative circle moment that I believe was one fumble. I mean, look, in a key game, and I mean a key game like an SEC title game, that could flip a game. And then 8 penalties for 65 yards. They got to get that cleaned up. Overall, A&M looks really, really good. Your thoughts on A&M, and what did you like you didn't like from them?
So when it comes to A&M, the thing that I have really been paying attention to this year the most is, can the defense continue to show up and show out. I think when it comes to the offense, you know what you're getting out of a Marcel Reed. And on top of that, especially with Concepcion coming in this year, I see what I saw with Evan Stewart. I see the same verticality. I see the exact same dimension of passing that I saw last year with A&M. I'm not worried about their offense. I do think the run stop from this game, it definitely gives me some questions, especially with teams who are very good at running the ball, like an Alabama, like a Georgia. I see something there that can be exploited. You didn't just have Ahmad Hardy having 100 rushing yards. You also had Jamal Roberts doing the same thing. And now that's two running backs running for 100 yards on you. That's not an anomaly anymore. That's not just Ahmad Hardy being the running back that he should be. That is a hole in your defense. And I think that that's something Elko really needs to watch out for going forward. I think he, especially this year, has been really focused. And honestly, I think it's shown in their production. And on top of that, I really think they should be over Indiana in the rankings this year. I'm surprised that they have not moved up to 2 yet. I think they have shown that they are a heavyweight up there with the likes of Ohio State. And as a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say it. I would pick them over Georgia or Alabama in an SEC championship. I see a team that has multiple dimensions to them that not even are successful, that are unstoppable. And I think especially shown with, their game against Notre Dame. Notre Dame was able to exploit on many different fronts, not just the run stop, but they were able to exploit the corners, the safeties, the passing schemes. You saw it, especially with it being a 42-41 game. That's a very, very high score for an SEC team to entertain. I think Elko's really got to button it up on the defensive side, but I think if he does, there is a lot of potential for this team to do some really great things in the SEC.
Absolutely. And this is their first season to where they're okay. We might go to the SEC championship. Is this the year? That's what everyone's asking down in College Station. Is this finally the year? The Mike Elko effect has worked. He's a fit. A lot of people are saying, okay, they didn't go the big game hunting route. They went with a more of a, okay, let's go to the not like the lower. Okay, he came from Duke. Yes, he was a defensive coordinator at A&M, but he wasn't a big household college football hire, right? Not like for example, a Dan Lanning type hire, a splash hire. He wasn't like that. He was just okay, Mike Elko, huh? We'll see how it works. Now it's paid off. They paid him, lower money, but now he's earning his money. Mike Elko, man, he's earning his money, and how he's becoming a household name in college football by leading A&M to what they are now in his second year, his second season. Crazy. I think, and this is before we go on to Missouri, and a lot of people are saying this. They got South Carolina on Saturday. They got Samford next. And then they have and then Texas at the end of their game on Black Friday. That's their last game. A lot of people have said about Texas A&M. Texas A&M may lose if this happens. If they don't run the ball well enough, if they give up a lot of yards on the ground, they can lose. If they may well lose. They may this. They may that. I think we're done with that, and I think I'm done with that. I think I'm done saying Texas A&M if they could lose. If they may well lose, they may very well lose. If I'm done with all that. I think I'm done. I think Texas A&M is a legit team. I think Texas A&M is honestly the favorite in all of their games coming up, because they should be. Texas A&M is a wagon. They're proven to be a wagon, and they look like a team that honestly could make a very deep playoff run. And a lot of people better start paying attention to what Elko's doing right now. And I know what a lot of people are going to say, dude, I mean, look at who they play. I've seen the body of work. I've seen them go up against teams in ranked matchups, right? I've seen all of that. And they went into the South Bend. I know a lot of people are going to say it's Notre Dame. Yeah, hard place to play at night. South Bend is. They went up and beat them. They went up and just straight up beat them. Week 3, I think it was week 3 rather. They beat them. We'll see what happens in Atlanta. We'll see what happens throughout the rest of their schedule. I think their next real, true tough game, obviously, is against Texas in rivalry weekend. But I'm done saying maybe A&M drops this game. Maybe this will happen. Maybe if they don't do this right. I'm done saying that.
Me too, man. Me too. And if I could touch on Texas really quickly, I think the reason I am done with the what ifs is especially coming to Texas. Texas's issues this year have been in the trenches, and that is a place that I think Mike Elko needs to be really motivated in improving on, because I think this is the exact type of defense that you could see Arch Manning throw 3 touchdowns on. However, I actually think it's more likely that this is the type of defense that you see a Kentucky-like performance out of Arch Manning, and I think that is great for the program.
Absolutely. And A&M has finally upped their trenches. That was the one key thing against that Texas game last year where,
Yep.
okay, well, we kind of got a little bit, iffy on, right? They weren't
Yep.
really winning in the trenches. Yeah, different story this year. All right, they are manhandling people in the trenches right now. Different story this year. So we'll see what happens throughout the rest of the game. A&M wins 38-17. They have South Carolina on Saturday, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. Missouri. Oh, okay. Let's talk about Missouri for a little bit.
Yep.
77 passing yards. They were a little bit. That's a negative circle moment, obviously. But the positive circle moment, 207 yards on the ground. They really shot on the ground, and they kind of exploited a little bit of that rushing defense a little bit for Texas A&M. Ahmad Hardy is probably one of the best running backs in the SEC. He's the best running back in the SEC, in my opinion, if not one of the best in college football. But let's talk about this really quick. 270 yards, yes. I think positives for me, 4 penalties, 38 yards. They were very disciplined in that regard. I think 5 for 13's not the best, but not too terrible. So they did convert on a little bit, right, which was pretty good. But I will say the negatives come in where, and also positive, 5.1 yards per play. Yes. I think the negatives come in with 2 sacks allowed, and they had to punt the ball 5 times, and they turned the ball over twice against a very red-hot Texas A&M team. So that's a little bit of a struggle there for me as well. What are your thoughts on Missouri? And just going out to the rest of the season. I know they're a 3-loss team, so they're probably most likely out, right? But talk about the motivation really. Is there still a path for them to win 10 games?
It's tough because you can't count out Eli Drinkowitz. You can't. He is known for this. He is known for the culture that he has created there in a program that, in terms of SEC standards, does not recruit very well. They are not a desirable destination within the SEC, understandably. However, I think that something that needs to be taken from this is he had these problems with quarterback injuries last year. It's what derailed their season last year. It is the exact same time it happened, which was mid-season around the toughest part of their schedule, and this is what caused their derailment last year. However, they were still a bowl team. They figured out a way. I believe they won 10 games, if I'm not correct as well. And that's a great thing for the program to have someone like him. Unfortunately, I don't think they'll have him for long. I see that run scheme really translating to a much better recruiting program like in Auburn or Florida, where that dimension of running is really needed. To have 2 running backs combined over 200 yards, I think is a real achievement against a team like A&M that you look at and you see that this is a top-level national championship competing team, not just a playoff team, a national championship competing program. And I see the performance that was put on by those running backs. And I think it is much more a symptom of the culture of hard-nosed power running that Eli Drinkowitz has brought to the program, even though, he runs an offense that largely comes from pistol formation. He runs a lot of offense that is heavily reliant on that quarterback position. Unfortunately, since he hasn't had that these last 2 years, he has really opened up that vertical running within his scheme, and I think it's worked out great. And I think programs like Florida, I think programs like LSU, I think Auburn, and to be honest, I think even programs like Ole Miss, who may lose their head coach in Lane Kiffin, I think they're watching that and they're taking notes on him.
Absolutely. Good analysis on that. Missouri coming up. And I may ask you a question at the very end before we wrap up, because I know we're probably going to have to take a short break and then go back to me with the Frenzy rankings. But I'm going to ask you a good question on that at the very end of these recaps. State coming up on Saturday, 7:45 Eastern, 6:45 Central. They're going to be a very interesting game there in Columbia, Missouri. Can State kind of compete right there as well? They can throw the ball. Missouri right now can't throw the ball well with, true freshman quarterback there, but we'll see what happens. We'll see. It could be a complete turnaround with Matt Zollers. OU and then Arkansas, very tough gauntlet there that they got coming up. We'll see what happens there. And we'll see what happens with Missouri if they can get that illustrious, right, 10-win season. If it's not another bowl eligible, if they can just finish out the season a 10-3 team, right? We'll see what happens. So, final score of this game was 38-17. A&M is a wagon. They are rolling to Atlanta. Missouri has a date with Mississippi State coming up on Saturday. I'm not going to lie, man. I don't know if you're in Arizona, right? So it's not going to be very wet or weathery, too cold there. But I'll tell you a place where it was cold. Des Moines, Iowa was very cold Saturday. It was really, really rainy, wet, and it was a very Big Ten type smash mouth game between Oregon and Iowa. I picked Oregon to win this ball game. I thought that Oregon was going to win it very close. Could be lower scoring, and it really was. And I was right. They got the win. Final score, Oregon 18, Iowa 16. What a Iowa-type game. It happens almost every year with Iowa. This was this game, right? Oregon 18, Iowa 16. The Ducks look okay. They look okay. I'm not going to sit and say that they are a automatic okay. They're in. Let's just pump the brakes a little bit because their schedule, they have some teams on their schedule where it could go either way. So we'll see what happens. But 18-16 was the final score. Dante Moore, 112 yards, 13 for 21, no touchdowns, an interception, not the best. But he did make some plays to, like I said at the very end, to get him in the field goal range, which is good. Traits that you want to see. He's going to be more developed, so let's pump the brakes. I don't get the draft hype around him for the 2026 year. Am I the only one that thinks that? I'm pretty sure you probably can agree with me on that one as well. I don't know. I just don't get the hype around him yet. I think he's good, not yet. I mean, Noah Winnington, 118 yards, 17 carries. They had some good, they ran the ball okay. 261 yards, that's pretty good total yards rushing. So they ran the ball really well. They had a good, smash mouth up front line of scrimmage type game with them. They played really good physically. Iowa did as well, but I think Oregon played really good smash mouth up front in the trenches game. I think 6.5 yards per play, good positive circle moment there. Running the ball was really good. 373 total yards of offense was really good. Positive circle moments there. I think for me, the big thing was protecting Dante Moore, and I said that was a big key in this game, and they did. 0 sacks allowed. Huge positive circle moment there as well. I think the negative is, if you want to be real, 3 for 10 on third down. They got to get a lot better at third down, I think. The pick in a key game would be, this was a key game, I believe, but that could be crucial, but not too bad. An interception, it's not going to, it wasn't defining the game or anything, but I can't really say anything about throwing the ball because it was a rainy game, so I'm not going to, let's scratch that out. But I think in other games, like maybe USC, maybe, they do need to get better at third down. I think that's a concern, and I think staying in the trenches and playing a full game in the trenches and just manhandling a team, I think that's where they need to get better at as well. There are some moments where they did get beat. Now, they didn't get, obviously, they did not, they didn't allow sacks, but still, they did get beat in key areas in protecting Dante Moore. So what's your analysis on, Oregon, and what did you like about them? What didn't you like about them?
So, lots to say about this one. About this one. So, the key things being, to refer back to your point about Dante Moore's draft stock, I think it's become very clear through, his inner circle and through sources within the media that he is likely to stay another year. I think his parents are on board with that. The Oregon Ducks are going to give him whatever amount on that check slip he needs in order to stay. And I think that has become very clear. They have no other option that's not him. You see the development from other quarterbacks behind him, even Achilles Smith Jr. being one of them, but they're not ready. He is the guy going forward. And I think if he were to follow up on that and go ahead and wait that extra year, I could see his draft stock being much, much better. I could see a top 3 quarterback pick out of him in the coming 2027 year. However, I think there's a lot more to talk about, and that is the injuries on the offensive side of the ball for Oregon. We're missing Evan Stewart. We're missing DeCorian Moore. We're missing Kenyon Sadiq. These are big, major targets that Dante Moore has gone back to time and time again. And I think even with the rain, Oregon is a team that I see being able to throw the ball in these tough games. Now, like you said, Des Moines, always a trap game, especially late in the year, especially these really tough night games. There's always inclement weather, whether it be snowing, whether it be rain. You're prepared for that if you're Dan Lanning. However, I think the thing that I see with Oregon is the recruiting is better. You see the trenches. You see the offensive playmaking. You see the quarterbacks they are getting with this money from Phil Knight and Nike, and you see the way it is translated on the field. I think Oregon is, to be honest, about as safe as a playoff team can be. I see the fact of them missing the Big Ten championship, or most likely missing the Big Ten championship, as actually a plus for them. Because I think, honestly, at the end of the day, you don't want to play in Ohio State right now. You do not want to play Ohio State in that Big Ten championship, and I think Indiana is going to find that out here in a couple of weeks. Oregon wraps up with, like you said, I believe USC, and then Washington at the end of the year. I think a lot of people were really high on Washington. If you watched Washington's last game against Wisconsin, you know they're not in the same punching class as Oregon. Oregon should win out and should be in that playoff spot, likely replacing BYU as that 7th team.
Bold statement, mic drop from Trent Ritchie on Oregon. They got some games coming up though, man. I mean, Minnesota, USC, Washington. Those are some good games. So,
you know what? Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Go right.
Oh, I was just gonna say I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped one. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped one.
The one that I would say to keep an eye on. I mean, I like Minnesota. They've been pretty steady this year. I think Washington has shown flashes of excellence, especially with, my former coach, Jed Fish, coming from Arizona. I think he has shown that he really can scheme up an offense at times. Wisconsin was not a great example of this, but I think with his transfers, he's really shown that. I think the game to keep an eye on is USC. USC does tend to play spoiler late in the year. This isn't the first time they've done this, and honestly, I think that Lincoln Riley, especially feeling his seat warming up a little bit after this year, feeling that he hasn't really elevated USC to that playoff level. I think that's one to watch, and I think especially with Oregon, they may start to feel a little too safe.
Right. That's a good point. Very good point, man. We'll see what Oregon's got coming up Friday, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. They got Minnesota on Friday night. So it could be a very interesting game there. Trap game? Who knows? We will see from Oregon. And you're going to see where Oregon is on my playoff rankings coming up here in a little bit for the Frenzy playoff rankings. And we'll see them tonight because the the playoff rankings are tonight as well. So let's talk about Iowa really quick, and then we will go to BYU and Texas Tech. Iowa is in a good spot for a 10-win season. I'm not saying they're going to go to the playoff, obviously, all that stuff, but they have been a surprise this year for me. I think Iowa has been extremely undervalued going up into this game, and they almost won this game. Mark Gronowski he's the positive circle moment for this team. He played really good for this team. 10 for 18, 138 yards, a touchdown. I think those are pretty good stats in that kind of weather. I really do. And then 25 yards, a touchdown, 12 carries. Moulton, 23 yards, 87 carries on the ground as well. Defensively, they played really good as well. They got some key stops. I mean, they played pretty tough and physical in this game. I think that's a positive circle moment for this team as well. 5 for 13 on third down, not bad. I think, for me, the key moments here, I think, and the negatives that happened were 3.9 yards per play, 2 sacks allowed, and 2 turnovers. I think that is what those kind of things can cost them games as well. And then, obviously, the late drive where Dante Moore just threw first down, got down the field enough where Addington Sappington kicked that game-winning field goal. But what's your thoughts on Iowa coming up, and do you think they get that 10-win season?
If I had to go with my gut, yes. I see what they saw out of Mark Gronowski coming in from the FCS. I see what they saw out of his production in the air. I see what they saw out of his ability to extend the play. But I think at the end of the day, the issue with Iowa has always been the same. Iowa is a very physical program. They are very reliant on the run game, and they do show up in defensively when it matters. But I think their issue is still the same. They really cannot move the ball. They've struggled with this for years. They can't seem to find the right guy at quarterback. They really can't even sometimes seem to find the right guys on the outside at receiver. However, even then, I think they've had some memorable standouts. I think the quarterback position is still the hole for them. However, I think Iowa as a program has a consistent culture of winning regardless of that. I just think that what they were hoping for out of Mark Gronowski this year was a quarterback that was going to elevate them to the level of being able to beat your Oregons, to the level of being able to beat some of these higher level teams like your Indianas and Ohio State. I don't think they have that, unfortunately. I think they are still sitting comfortably in New Year's. I think they're going to be bowling this year. I do. But I think that element that they were looking for out of him, I see flashes of it. I see where they saw that. I see where, their AD and their development team and their head coach, I see where they saw that in him. I just don't think it translated in quite the way they were hoping for. But to be honest with you, I think that says a lot less about Mark Gronowski and says a lot more about the schematics of Iowa's offense.
Yeah, I agree, man. Slight spoiler. Maybe, just maybe, Iowa and USC's a pigskin game Saturday. Just maybe. Iowa plays USC Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. Then they got Michigan State. Then they got that rivalry with Nebraska. Let's see how it goes. 10-win or 9-win season? We don't know yet. We just got to see how the game's played out. Final score is 18-16. Oregon's playoff hopes are alive. Iowa going back to the drawing board. They got a tough game Saturday against USC. We will see what happens in that one. Final game of our Week 11 recap, BYU and Texas Tech. What a showdown and what a game for Texas Tech. For Texas Tech, it was a game because, honestly, I thought BYU was going to cover. I thought they were going to cover, but, Joel has to get something wrong at least something wrong, right? He gets the outcome right. He just has to get something wrong, obviously. Final score of this game was 29-7. Texas Tech 29, BYU 7. They covered and then some. This is a dangerous team. They are a dangerous team. There is no doubt what a dangerous team looks like, and this is what a dangerous team looks like in the Big 12 and in the CFP. Positive circle moments, obviously. Behren Morton, yes, he did have 17 for 32. It was kind of but he still made big plays when it counts. Cameron Dickey was the main highlight reel on offense. 121 yards, 23 carries, 1 touchdown, 5.3 yards per rush. And they did look good, moving the ball down the field. Now, I wouldn't have gone for that field goal. I would have gone for the field goal before half. That's just me. But look, they still won. Didn't matter. But I still would. There's just a little nitpick there as well. Joel, quit nagging. That's what probably Joey McGuire's saying to me right now. Quit nagging and nitpicking. We won the game. 368 total yards, 219 passing yards, 149 rushing yards, 4.9 yards per play. They were 7 for 18 on third down. All positive circle moments for me for this team. They looked really good overall. I think the negatives are 4 sacks allowed. But it's BYU. They're a really good defense. 4 sacks allowed. They got to get better at protecting Behren Morton. And then 6 penalties for 50 yards. That was kind of a negative for me. Just kind of zero that in a little bit. Just to clean it up with some. I know it's not terrible, but it's not the best. And then I think a positive for me is they did not turn the ball over. They played very clean football and not turning the ball over. What is your analysis on Texas Tech? And then we'll move on to BYU.
So with Texas Tech, you obviously got to talk about the influx of oil money coming into that program. This season especially, they were very, very active in the transfer portal. I would argue one of the most, if not the most active team in the transfer portal was Texas Tech. They were looking to be the top level team in the Big 12. They were looking to be the difference maker with a conference with parity from top to bottom, except Oklahoma State and Colorado. You have a conference that has so many potential players. They wanted to separate. I believe they've done that. They have shown that they are the team to beat in the future. They've shown that they are the team to beat this year. However, I do think there are some areas that they need to pay attention to. I think they need to pay attention and clean up the red zone stuff. They are really, really inefficient in the red zone. They left a lot of plays on the table. They left a lot of points on the table. And I think, like you said with the field goal, I think they really need to get smarter. I think Joey McGuire needs to really go ahead and talk Baron Morton into this. Say, hey, listen, I know you've been laboring some injuries. I know, you've been, I mean, they even had to throw their backup in versus Utah, which, I mean, understandable, he's injured, but I think they really need to open up that offense a little bit. You've shown you can trust Baron Morton. You've shown you can trust your running backs. You've shown you can trust your deep, almost, I mean, I would argue they have 4 excellent top line receivers, almost akin to what we saw out of Colorado last year. I think they really need to shore it up. They really need to make sure that they are in the red zone capitalizing on those moments. Or I think teams similar to BYU, hence possibly a rematch, could really take advantage of that in the future. And I think especially if they are looking as, we are a Texas team, we are looking to compete with the SEC Big Ten level. I think leaving those kind of plays on the table are something that in the playoffs, a team like an A&M, a team like an Ohio State will take advantage of.
Man, good analysis there. I mean, Texas Tech, and you're right, I believe that as well. I think Texas Tech does have to capitalize on certain moments in the games. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think Texas Tech's a really good football team, though, man. I am high on Texas Tech. I mean, they're 9-1, about to be 10-1. We'll see what happens. I mean, coming up, they have UCF coming up on Saturday. Going to be an interesting game there. Then they got West Virginia after a bye week. So those are the last 2 games. We'll see what's going down there. Going to be very fun to see what Texas Tech does. I believe they're going to be in the playoff. Even if they become a 2-loss team, because they'll be a Big 12 champion if they go to the Big 12 championship. But let's see what happens. I don't think they're going to lose those games. I favor them both, but we're going to see what happens with Texas Tech. Going to be very interesting. And you mentioned a rematch, BYU. Even though they got beat, the way they got beat, 29-7, a lot of people are going to be very surprised where I have them in the Frenzy playoff rankings. They're not too far off. I believe that they could still win out. They have a gauntlet coming up, but they're not too far off. Bear Bachmeier, he didn't have overall a phenomenal game, but it wasn't terrible. I mean, 168 yards, 1 touchdown. They really couldn't get the running game going, and that's a negative circle moment there. They got out physical in a lot of different ways. That is a negative to me. The positives to me, though, they still were able to pass the ball, 255 total yards of offense. They had the 188 passing yards as well. They got 4 sacks. Their defense was very physical until the end. I think the big negative circle moment was 3 turnovers for BYU as well. What was your analysis on BYU and your thoughts on BYU? And do you think they went out in that gauntlet? Because that's going to be tough.
So I think to play on that big negative circle moment, I think unfortunately this does fall on the shoulders of Bear Bachmeier. I think he looked like a freshman. He looked like as advertised. And I think that looking at BYU deeper, we have seen flashes of this in other games. They almost, lost that game to Colorado earlier in the year, them not even starting the quarterback that they have now, Julian Lewis, who's really their prospect going forward. They were really struggling, sputtering, had a really rough time versus Houston, and BYU gave them life until the very end of that game where they wrapped it up. Even my Cats, Arizona was up 10 well into the fourth quarter. Now, I believe Arizona, obviously lost that game because they allowed BYU to creep back in. But I think at the same time, BYU has shown that at times this offense is missing something. And I think it's even more obvious with them because it is obviously missing the vertical passing game. I think even with these veteran wide receivers, even with your guys who have been on this team for a while, they gelled with Retzlaff. And with Retzlaff not being there, you are missing that veteran presence at quarterback that can galvanize the troops when you're down early against Texas Tech, when you're down really big early against Texas Tech and can't even score, until well after halftime. This has now become a very tough game for you to beat because you're asking a kid that has played limited snaps to essentially drag you back against a team that is full of veterans, that is full of seniors, that is full of playoff molded players. And I think that that is a tough thing to ask of a quarterback like Bear Bachmeier, who has performed very well on the ground this year, who has added a dimension to that run game, especially in their goal line situations, especially when it comes to the red zone. He has been a heavy hand in that run game. But I think even then, you were missing that ability to make big plays and to come back when you're down by more than 2 scores. They don't, they do not have that. They don't have that element, and they need that desperately. And I think Saturday proved BYU is not a playoff team. They are missing that piece to their game. And I think while their coaching has been excellent this year, I think Bear Bachmeier has well overperformed for what you would expect from a freshman. He has won the close games, which is all you can ask for from him. I think Texas Tech showed that there are levels to this. Texas Tech is a team that is far and out separating themselves from the rest of the Big 12. And I think while BYU as a culture has shown that, I think their top level talent in terms of their players is missing.
Absolutely. Good analysis there. They got 3 games coming up.
Thank you.
Very, very tough. 9:15, 10:15 Eastern, 9:15 Central. BYU, TCU. That's going to be a very interesting game. Then they got Cincinnati next week, and then the last week, UCF. They lose 2 out of 3 of those games. Here comes Utah right back in it. So let's see what happens. Utah's on the outside looking in, so we'll see what happens there. Going to be tough for BYU. Final score of this game was 29-7. Texas Tech defeats BYU. But Texas Tech looks great. BYU still in it. They just have to win out. Survive. That's all you got to do is just survive. That was our Week 11 recap. Really quick before we take a break and then go to the Frenzy playoff rankings. But rapid fire questions, and this is just very interesting. 2 questions. 1 question, first off, who, in your opinion, what was the most shocking result, right? What was the most shocking result from this past weekend in your eyes? And then number 2, out of the 3 big jobs, Penn State, Florida, LSU, who are their next head coaches in your predictions?
Okay, so tackling the first question with what really surprised me from this week. It's got to be Indiana Penn State. It's the only correct answer to this. Everybody knows it. Everybody watched the game. Everybody saw that Indiana essentially saved their season on that last play. Whether they were going to make it or not, Indiana needs to remain undefeated. It is the engine behind their program this year. I think while Fernando Mendoza has obviously been the best quarterback in the CFB this year, with the exception of, unfortunately, Arizona State's quarterback who went down not too long ago. I think that Sam Leavitt really was showing a lot of flashes of NFL talent earlier in the year. I think his issue being injuries. Fernando Mendoza has shown that he is a leader within that program. He has shown that Curt Cignetti has made the right decision in the transfer portal. He made the right decision in grabbing him out of Cal. And I think this was seen in Cal earlier last year. Unfortunately, Cal being a little bit of a rough around the edges program, not a lot of success recently. It's a little bit harder to pick out, but Fernando Mendoza has an arm like nobody else. He can pinpoint the ball exactly where it needs to be, as shown by that final play. However, I think what this shows is the Penn State program is not dead. Not even close. I think they really need a coach to revitalize that program. I think they need to go a little bit deeper in their head coaching search and go for someone that maybe others are not looking at, and someone that may build that program from the bottom in a way that James Franklin absolutely did coming out of Vanderbilt. However, I think that what this shows more importantly is that Indiana is vulnerable. Indiana is not the second overall team in the nation like apparently the committee thinks they are as of now. I think that will change as of tonight. I think it should change as of tonight. And I think that was really something to pay attention to if you're a Hoosier. I think they see that and they go, okay, Penn State really was a demoralized program. Not a lot of fight left in them. Losing really close games to teams like Iowa. I mean, you're struggling. You're sputtering down the end. You lost James Franklin after that Northwestern game. You've lost your quarterback to a gruesome injury at that Northwestern game. I think that to give a program like that life shows that Indiana is not ready-made like people think they are yet. I like Cignetti. I like the culture that he's building. It's hard-nosed, almost Alabama style. We're going to beat you by 50 and not even wince. But I think to show that kind of performance against Penn State, especially them being up with a little over a minute left in the game, you're looking at that going, okay, and you're going to tell me that that is a team that can consistently compete with teams like A&M and Ohio State? I don't believe so.
Absolutely. And then one more question. We got to wrap. We'll wrap up with you. Three coaches for Penn State, LSU, Florida, for the big three jobs. Who are your guys?
Penn State, LSU, Florida. Okay. It's tough because there's a lot of speculation. I'll give you, for one of them, I'm going to give you a little bit of a long answer and a short answer. Okay, for the LSU Tigers, I can't give up on Nick Saban. I just can't. I don't know why. I feel like there's some serious momentum going in that direction. I've heard a lot of sources talking about this. He has shot down all the rumors personally, which I understand. His family has done so as well. But to think that Nick Saban does not still have that competitive edge and does not have a number that could bring him to LSU, I just disagree. I don't think that's the case. However, I think realistically, they end up with someone more along the lines of an Eli Drinkowitz. I think he will be in competition for not only the LSU job, but likely for the Auburn job as well. And I think whatever one does not hire him, the other will. I would say kind of an underlying name for LSU as well could be like a John Sumrall if they're really looking to build from the bottom, if they're really looking to, I say, get the stench of Brian Kelly out of the building. I think he had some really rough times with recruiting. I think he, especially losing Bryce Underwood, was a really gut-wrenching thing for the program. I think his handling of some players and their injuries was left a lot to be desired. However, I think that the most legitimate option for me would be Eli Drinkowitz. Moving on to Penn State, I think Penn State's in a rougher spot. I think Penn State is really demoralized from the top down. I think them losing Franklin, especially the way they did, and him being one of the most winning football coaches in Penn State history, is a rough loss for them. I think he went to the playoffs last year. I would largely say he showed up and showed out. I know they didn't really play anyone. They didn't have, the murder row that Ohio State did. They didn't go in and, blow everybody away. They really played a lot of close games, but I think he really took care of business when it needed to happen. I think Notre Dame outclassed them, and I think Notre Dame absolutely outcoached them. I think when I look at a program like Penn State, I think what you're looking for is someone who can build the program from the bottom up. I think kind of a dark horse name for me would be Alex Golesh out of USF, excuse me. I see him building a culture that Penn State would love. I see him recruiting in very creative ways. I think his offensive schematics are different. It's a lot of outside the hash work. It's a lot of spread. It's a lot of RPOs, a lot of quarterback runs. I see that being something that Penn State would really adopt as an identity and translate very well to. Now, in terms of the last job, remind me which one that was again.
Florida.
Okay. Florida, for me, is the one that I think is the open-ended question, because I think at the end of the day, the thing you got to look at is Lane Kiffin going to take the job? It's on the table for him. Everybody knows it. That's their desirable pick. Is it on the table? And I think at the end of the day, what I look to is, does Lane Kiffin believe that the success of Ole Miss this year is representative of the culture that he has created and is something long-term for the program? Or does he believe that this year is a flash in the pan from a guy like Trinidad Chambliss, who really showed up and showed out this year, who really was the undiscovered talent that Lane Kiffin thought he was? He is a senior. I think especially with him playing a lot of Division II ball and JUCO ball, he may go ahead and get that fifth year similar to Pavia. However, I think what Lane Kiffin's looking at is this long-term? And I think really thinking about it, the answer is no. I think that Ole Miss has shown flashes of this in the past, but their ability to consistently recruit over programs in the region, like your Alabamas, like your Georgias, like, for example, your Floridas, is not there. And I think that at the end of the day, Lane Kiffin is going to look at Florida and go, that is something I can fix. That is something that my culture, my steady hand can fix. And I think especially with him being so relatable to players and his personality and his personal life and the way that he is very almost troll-like about the way he wins. He really goads teams on. He really makes them upset when he beats them. He really rubs their nose in it. I think that is something that Florida higher-ups are looking at and going, that is what Napier was missing. Napier did not have the confidence to run a program like Florida. You could tell it from year one. If you really looked at the way he ran that program, he relied so heavily on his recruiting classes, but when they got there, these key players that he's spending so much NIL money on are not performing. DJ Lagway being one of them, benched again this weekend versus Kentucky in a really awful 38-7 loss. I think that you look at that and you go, okay, the recruiting's translating. The program having the NIL money that they have available to them, they're competing with that of Georgia and Alabama. It's translating. What's not translating is these players are not being coached properly. And Lane Kiffin sees that and says, that's an opportunity for me to be there. I believe he takes the Florida job.
Mic drop for the three jobs that are open, the big three jobs that are open. Penn State, LSU, Florida. Guys, Trent Ritchie, ladies and gentlemen, with our Week 11 recap and our rapid fire questions there. We'll have Trent back on next month coming up for December, and we'll analyze some playoff games with him as well. So Trent, thank you for coming on. We'll be right back for the Frenzy playoff rankings, so stick around. We'll take a short intermission and we'll be right back.
Thanks, Joel. Have a good one.
Man, round of applause for Trent Ritchie, man. Golf clap, the infamous golf clap here. Round of applause for him. He did really, really well. Week 11 recap. We talked about the rapid fire questions. I know we had a short intermission. He had to go take care of some things, but now we're going to wrap it up with just me, the Frenzy playoff rankings. Hopefully we'll make it a regular occurrence for Trent Ritchie. He's our new, we can make him our new analytical guy and our new correspondent, I guess, our reoccurring guest correspondent. Kind of like how Savannah is our, correspondent for Pigskin Frenzy. Shout out to Savannah Tujay as well. But Frenzy playoff rankings, week 12. We got to get it rolling, rocking and rolling for week 12 before we head into Thursday's episode of Pigskin Frenzy. Tonight's the college football playoff rankings. Again, the second week of them. We're going to unveil our second set of the Frenzy playoff rankings as well. The rankings that matter, right? They're the rankings that matter. Before we get into the rankings, let's go with our honorable mentions. I think our honorable mentions are pretty clear. I mean, Cincinnati, Tulane, and Iowa are our honorable mentions. I think Cincinnati, Tulane, and Iowa are great honorable mentions for the Frenzy playoff rankings. Iowa didn't play all that bad this past weekend, I don't believe. I just think that Oregon just did a little bit more and got down the field at the right time and had the ball at the right time in that one. So those are the honorable mentions to me as well. And I'm going to do one more honorable mention. SMU, even though they're a 3-loss team as well, they're an honorable mention. I think they're really good also. So let's talk about one and the Frenzy playoff rankings now at 25. Tennessee is number 25 in the Frenzy playoff rankings. You're going to get a little bit mad at me for that one. I get it. Here's my thoughts on that. Here are my thoughts. I think that Tennessee is a really good 3-loss team. I think they're the best 3-loss team out there right now. A lot of people are going to say, dude, you're insane. I'm not. I don't think I am, at least. I think they're the best 3-loss team out there right now. I think they can compete with a lot of people. They are just on the edge at 25 in our rankings. 24, 23, and 22. 24, James Madison. James Madison is 24 in our Frenzy playoff rankings. They look good. I mean, James Madison's a really good group of 5 team. I think they're 24 in the AP as well. They're 8-1. Here's the deal. They're in the Sun Belt, but the thing is, though, man, they are a really good football team. And I think if anybody else messes up in the American Conference, James Madison can slip in and be in the college football playoff to represent. So we'll see what happens with James Madison in the Sun Belt, but they look really good right now with Bob Chessie Jr. as their head football coach. He's doing a tremendous job with the Dukes. Number 24 is James Madison. 23 is North Texas. Eric Morris, Drew Mestemaker, those boys up in Denton, Texas, they are doing really well in the American Conference. They are a 1-loss team, and they are playing really solid football. If anything happens to the team they lose to, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit, they can move right into the college football playoff spot in the American Conference and represent in the American Conference Championship. They just need one of the teams to lose. They really do need somebody to lose, right? Number 22 is South Florida. Two-loss team, yes, but guess what? They only have one loss in the American Conference. 22 is South Florida. They look really, really good, and they look like they are the most likely team to win it all, go in there, and go into the college football playoff and represent the G5 in the CFP. Number 22 is South Florida. Number 21, and I should have had them on here last week, and I just didn't think about it, and I should have dove deep into more, so this was my mistake. Number 21 is Pitt. Pitt looks really good. They're heading into a showdown with Notre Dame on Saturday, so we're going to see what happens there. Number 21 is Pitt. I cannot wait to see this ball game Saturday. They've been playing really good. Pat Narduzzi's got them ready to play. They look solid on both sides of the football. They look very physical and tough. 21 is Pitt. They're only a two-loss team. Pitt is only a two-loss team. They have a lot to play for in the ACC. If things can go their way, they can get into the ACC championship game, and they win out and go to Charlotte and win the ACC title game, you can say hello to Pitt in the college football playoff. So Pitt could get in. We'll see what happens with Pat Narduzzi. I didn't expect this to happen with Pat Narduzzi, but let's see what happens. 21 is Pitt. Number 20 is Miami. Number 20 is Miami. Still a lot to play for. They only have 2 losses on their schedule. Number 20 is Miami. So just pay attention. If Miami keeps winning out, they still have a strong shot at going to the ACC title game and still has a strong shot at going to the college football playoffs. So number 20 is Miami. Number 19 is Louisville. I could not put them ahead of Louisville. Louisville is a 2-loss team, yes, but they lost a closer one to Cal, and Cal's not terrible. They're not too bad of a team, but it's still not a good look to lose to an unranked team in overtime. I get it, but they're not too terrible. So let's see. Louisville is number 19. Virginia is number 18. I get it. They lost to an unranked Wake Forest team. However, if you're Virginia, you're a 2-loss team. You still got things to play for. Everything's still on the table for Pitt, Louisville, and Virginia. And Miami. It's a battle to see most likely who's going to play Georgia Tech, because I don't think Georgia Tech's going to lose another ACC game. So we'll see what happens there. But Virginia is number 18 on our Frenzy playoff rankings. Number 17 is Michigan. Michigan is number 17. They are a 2-loss team. They still look good. Keep an eye out for Michigan. If they win out, I'm not saying they're going to go to the Big Ten Championship by no means, but could they upset Ohio State? Who knows? Let's see what happens. They still look like they're ready to rock and roll. Ohio State's clear-cut favorite to beat Michigan, I know, but they are looking forward to that matchup here in a couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens there. Michigan is number 17 on our list. Number 16, and keep an eye on this one, is USC. They could sneak in to the college football playoff. USC, if they win out, they could be a sneak in to an at-large spot to the college football playoff. USC looks ready to rock and roll. They are rolling. They're number 16. They got another win against Northwestern this past Friday. Let's see what they do good against Iowa coming up. Very tough home game against the Hawkeyes coming up. Let's see what happens. But number 16 is USC. They got to get better a little bit defensively, but I'm going to tell you what, their offense with Jaden Maya-Ava, Jacoby Land at receiver, those guys look solid on offense. So number 16 is USC. I did a little bit of a mistake, disclaimer, and I'm gonna justify my mistake right now. Number 16, number 15, and 14. Number 15 is Vanderbilt, and number 14 is Georgia Tech. I shouldn't have put Georgia Tech behind Vandy. I think Vandy should go behind Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is a 1-loss team. I know they lost to NC State. Number 14 is Georgia Tech. I believe Vanderbilt is 15. Yes, they played good against Auburn. They're a 2-loss team, though. And I don't believe that Vanderbilt is not out of it yet in the playoff hunt. They're not out of it yet. They're number 15, and they should be. They won a good game in Nashville. Georgia Tech is 14. They lost to an unranked NC State team. I do believe that this game could go either way if they played each other right now, Vandy and Georgia Tech. But I think Georgia Tech right now has the better record. Right now, they're in the clear-cut favorite to go to the ACC championship. With those things at play, I believe it's only right to put Georgia Tech ahead of Vanderbilt at this time. Number 14 is Georgia Tech. Number 15 is Vandy. Now, you're going to sit here and think, what you just said made no sense because you have Utah at 13. Now, here's the kicker here. I think Utah can still make it into the Big 12 championship game. And even though they're number 13, they're a 2-loss team. I think BYU's schedule is very tough, and if they drop a couple of games in that race, in that race, and then that three schedule gauntlet they got, they lose to TCU and or Cincinnati at the same time. Yes, Utah goes in, and I think that they have a shot, a strong shot. I believe in Utah, man. Give me Utah at 13. I believe Utah could probably beat Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech right now, and I'm a big believer in Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech can play Vanderbilt close. I think they can play Utah close as well, but I think Utah has the edge right now. Even though they're a 2-loss team. Give me Utah at 13. That's my justification for that as well. Oklahoma is at 12. And I think Oklahoma's got a huge showdown with Alabama. They're in the top 12 right now. It's a do or die for an at-large spot. Right now, I put South Florida in the spot where Memphis was for the CFP bracket. And South Florida's in the playoff. In my eyes right now, South Florida is in the college football playoff. But right now, power ranking-wise, Oklahoma is 12. They got a huge showdown with Alabama coming up this Saturday. Let's see how it fares. But it's a do-or-die game in Bryant-Denny for the Sooners Saturday afternoon. Number 11 is Texas. Texas is number 11. They are looking good. They had a bye week. They have a huge showdown in Athens Saturday night against Georgia. Let's see how that goes. Could be a pigskin game. Who knows? Texas is at number 11 in our rankings. Number 10, a lot of people, let's get prepared to make people mad here. Notre Dame is number 10. Yes, they bounced back from Boston College game. They played really well against Navy. Joel, it's Navy. I understand that. They looked really good on the field, both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I think Notre Dame's number 10. I think they're one of the best teams right now, and I do think they can show some teams, hey, we're going to compete against you. So Marcus Freeman's doing a heck of a job with the Irish. Notre Dame is at number 10 in my eyes, and I believe they are worthy going into this week as a top 10 spot, even though they're a 2-loss team. I believe their number 10 right now is Notre Dame. Let's see what happens with Pitt. That can change Saturday. I could drop them completely out or even put them deeper, right, as a 3-loss team. So we'll see what happens there. Number 10 is Notre Dame. Number 9, a lot of people are going to get confused with this one. BYU is number 9. They go from, I believe, to number 7 to number 9 in my rankings from last week. Yeah, they only fall 2 spots. While they did get beat pretty good, yeah. They're still a 1-loss team. They still have a lot to play for. And I believe that defensively, they did play and execute in some game, in very well in that game in some plays. Now, Texas Tech ran them over because I think they're the better football team. Yeah. But BYU looked good overall. So BYU, I mean, I wouldn't say they look good overall Saturday, but they have looked good. Body of work-wise, they've looked good overall. So BYU is only a 1-loss, 8-1 team. Yes, they're number 9 in my rankings until they end up dropping another game. We'll see what happens. But I think we're headed towards a Big 12 title rematch maybe. So we'll see what happens. If BYU wins out, they're in. So we can't just not disclaim them and not eliminate them right off the bat. So to me, they look good defensively. They just got a little bit to work on offensively as well, and capitalization and execution as well. Number 9 is BYU on our list. Number 8 is Oregon. Oregon is number 8. You drop them from 7 to 8. Why? Because Texas Tech is number 7 on our list. And I think Texas Tech is better right now than Oregon. And I think Oregon played good against Iowa, but Texas Tech played better. So number 8 is Oregon. Texas Tech is 7. They have earned the jump in our rankings. Number 8 is Oregon. Number 7 is Texas Tech. Number 6 is Ole Miss. They remain the same. We're playing the Citadels. Not really nothing against the Citadel. Nothing against them at all. I just think they need to play a little bit better of a competition to move up and down. I think 6 right now is the perfect spot for Ole Miss, especially in an at-large setting. Number 5 is Georgia. They do not move at all. They played a really good 60-minute full game against Mississippi State. They did not play one half of football. They played all of football. 60-minute full game against Mississippi State in Starkville. They won the game. And they looked very, very good. Georgia, number 5. The top 4 straight sitting goes like this. Number 4, Alabama is number 4 on our list. That does not change. I think LSU was a up and down win. They had some things to work on, but they did some real things really, really good. 20-9 win against LSU. It's a good win, yes, but also like there could be better things that Alabama could have done in that ball game. I think Alabama looked good. There's obviously some things like I said, they could be better at. Number 4 is Alabama. We're not going to move them just yet. I think they can make a splash, but we will see what happens. Number 4 is Alabama. Number 3, 2-1. Number 3 is Indiana. Indiana was 2 on our list last week. They did play. They didn't play all that great against Penn State, But Penn State showed some fight. Indiana didn't play terrible, but they didn't play phenomenal. Penn State showed a lot of fight in that game and made it a little bit too close for Indiana. I think Indiana is number 3 because Texas A&M is number 2. Texas A&M played better than Indiana, and Texas A&M is number 2 on our list because of that. A&M is a wagon. I'm tired of hearing the what ifs and maybes about A&M now, and I'm tired of myself for saying it. Right now, A&M is number 2, and they deserve to be number 2 because I think they played better than Indiana this week. But Indiana is number 3 in our list. Number 2 is Texas A&M. And finally, number 1 is Ohio State. Ohio State, until proven otherwise, to me, is the number 1 team in our Frenzy rankings. I believe they are playing really, really well. They played Purdue good, and Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith are putting up video game numbers for that team on offense, and Matt Patricia and that defense are just phenomenal. They are playing phenomenal defense. They're very physical and tough. They have very few flaws right now, but we don't get to see that until maybe Michigan, maybe against Indiana, and maybe the playoffs. So we'll see. But number 1 right now is Ohio State on our list until proven otherwise. That is the Frenzy playoff rankings for week 12. We will post them on X and Instagram after this episode is uploaded. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below on X and Instagram and on YouTube. That is the Frenzy playoff rankings for week 12. We are out of time. A big thank you to Trent Ritchie for coming on earlier and for just guys who are just tuning in and listening to the Frenzy playoff rankings and some college football coverage presented by us. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow up the pages there. You're going to get episode updates, news and highlights from across college football, trivia questions, and more on Instagram and on the social sites for Pigskin Frenzy. The website's www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com, and we're so thankful for you guys tuning in each and every week. 6,000 plus listeners and counting. We're about to be at 6,100 listeners and counting. A big thank you for tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday to just listen to us talk college football. But most importantly, we couldn't do this show without our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. We love him, and we give him all the praise for delivering us Pigskin Frenzy and putting us in college football media. And without him, we would not be here. If you want to come to know him, X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy. And the website is www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. The contact info is down below on the website. We cannot do this show without him. It is the best decision you could ever make in your life is to come to know Jesus. We give him all the glory and praise, and we praise him because without him, we would not be doing Pigskin Frenzy and being in college football media. Guys, coming up on Thursday, we have a very special guest for Week 12. Our Week 12 guest picker is none other than George Reister III. From the host of the Unafraid show with George Reister. He joins the show, former Oregon Ducks tight end and former Jacksonville Jaguars tight end. He joins the show to talk about his career, his football career, his media career, the Unafraid show. He's also going to talk about his Week 12 upset alerts, his Week 12 ranking reactions, and we're going to preview and predict the Week 12 Pigskin Frenzy games. Iowa at USC. Ready for this. Iowa at USC. Not only that, we have Texas at Georgia. We have Oklahoma at Alabama and Notre Dame at Pitt. Those are the 4 Pigskin Frenzy games for Week 12. We cannot wait to have George Reister on the show on Thursday. Guys, thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. I'm Joel Norris, signing off until George Reister on Thursday. We're praying for you all. We love you all. We'll see you Thursday. For everybody out there, please and always, stay the course.